The Andari galaxy was quiet, too quiet. Far beyond the Empire's core worlds, near the dark edge of controlled space, an Imperial deep space station floated alone. It was a massive metal structure, shaped like a spinning ring, built for one purpose: early detection. Nothing passed through this region without being seen. Or at least, that was the idea. Inside the station's control room, officers moved calmly. Screens glowed blue. Soft humming filled the air. It was another boring shift. Lieutenant Corrin leaned back in his chair staring at scanner data. "Man, nothing ever happens out here," he muttered. The junior tech beside him shrugged. "Easy credits. I ain't complaining." Suddenly, one screen flickered. Corrin frowned. "Hold up. What's that?" A small blip appeared on the outer sensor grid. Very faint. Very far away. The tech squinted. Probably space debris. Corrin adjusted the scanner sensitivity. The blip stayed. It didn't drift like debris. It moved. Slow. Steady. Direct. Right toward Imperial territory. "Okay, that's weird," Corrin said quietly. He zoomed in. No fleet formation. No escort signals. Just one object. The energy reading was strange. Not matching any known Empire signature. The computer struggled to classify it. "Run identification," Corrin ordered. The system processed. Processing. Then species origin. Human. The room went silent. The tech blinked. "Wait, humans?" Corrin felt his stomach tighten. Humans weren't a major threat. They were new to interstellar politics. Divided. Still growing. But they were unpredictable. And they were definitely not supposed to be here.
Ow!
"This gotta be wrong," the tech whispered.
Good.
Corrin reran the scan. Same result. Human. He stood up fast. "Call the commander." Moments later, Commander Violin entered the room. Tall, cold eyes, calm voice. "What is it?" Corrin pointed to the screen. "One unidentified vessel. Human origin. Approaching Imperial border." The commander stared at the display. "One ship?" he asked. "Yes, sir." The commander almost smiled. "That's it? One human ship got you nervous?" "No, sir," Corrin said carefully. "It's the energy output." Commander Violин's expression changed. "How high?" Corrin swallowed. "Higher than a standard Imperial battlecruiser." Silence. "That's impossible," the commander said flatly. "Yes, sir. That's what we thought." The commander stepped closer to the screen. The blip grew larger. More detailed scans started coming in. Hull length. Massive. Armor density. Extreme. Shield strength. Off the charts. Weapon ports. Multiple unknown signatures. This wasn't a scout. This wasn't a transport.
Good.
This wasn't normal. The commander's jaw tightened. "How many ships are behind it?" Corrin shook his head. "That's the thing, sir. There are no other ships." The commander looked confused. "No support fleet?" "No, sir." "No carrier group?" "No, sir. Just one." "Yes, sir," the tech whispered under his breath. "Yo, that ain't right." Commander Violin ignored the comment. Open long-range visual feed. The main screen shifted. At first it was just stars. Then it appeared. A dark shape against a green nebula glow. Massive. Angular. Layered armor plates like overlapping blades. Orange light strips glowing along its hull like burning veins. Engines radiating steady power. It moved calmly. Not fast. Not aggressive. Just confident. Like it had nothing to fear. The control room felt colder. "That's a battleship," someone whispered. No one laughed. The commander's voice stayed steady, but quieter now. "Transmit warning. Inform the vessel it is entering restricted Imperial space." The signal was sent. Seconds passed. Nothing. Then the human ship sent a response. One short transmission. Commander Violin read it out loud. "This vessel travels alone." That was it. No identification number. No captain name. No apology. Just that. The commander frowned. "That's their response?" "Yes, sir." Energy readings suddenly spiked. Shields activated. Weapons powered. But the human ship did not fire.
Good.
It just kept coming. The tech's hands started shaking. "Sir, their shield output just increased again." "How much?" 30% above early readings. "That's insane," someone muttered.
Good.
The commander narrowed his eyes. "Scan for cloaked vessels." Corrin ran a deep scan. Nothing. No hidden fleet. No reinforcements. Just that one ship. And it was strong. Way too strong. Contact High Command. The commander ordered. Within minutes, the report reached the Imperial capital. Admirals gathered around holographic displays. They saw the ship, they saw the numbers, and for the first time in years, no one spoke confidently. Admiral Dresk folded his arms. One ship does not threaten the Empire. A tactical officer cleared his throat. Sir, with respect, its power output equals 5 of our. Admiral turned slowly. You're saying one human ship matches 5 Imperial battleships? Yes, sir. Silence filled the chamber. Someone whispered, "That's wild." The Admiral ignored it. "Maybe it's experimental, maybe unstable, but sir," the officer continued carefully, "it is stable. Energy readings are steady." Another update came in. "Sir, the human vessel has changed course slightly, toward where..." The officer zoomed out the map. The projected path extended deep into Imperial territory. Straight line, no hesitation. Its destination marker blinked red. The Imperial capital. The room felt heavy. "That has to be coincidence," someone said quickly. But deep down, no one believed that. Back at the border station, Commander Violin watched the giant ship grow larger on screen. It was beautiful in a terrifying way. Dark metal, layered design, weapons hidden beneath armored sections. It didn't look rushed. It looked perfected. The tech whispered again, "Man, this thing built different." The commander didn't correct him, because he agreed. Another transmission came from the human ship. This time it wasn't a message, it was coordinates. Commander Violin checked them. His face went pale. They were the exact coordinates of the Imperial capital. No mistakes, no error. Margin, exact. The human ship knew where it was going, and it wanted them to know too. The tech's voice cracked. "They're not sneaking in." "No," the commander said quietly. "They're announcing themselves." The human ship continued forward, calm, unstoppable, like it didn't care about Imperial defenses, like it had already calculated every outcome. In the capital, Admiral Dresk stared at the hologram. "One ship cannot challenge an empire," he said firmly, but no one sounded convinced anymore. A junior strategist finally spoke up. "Sir, what if it's not here to challenge us?" The Admiral turned. "What are you implying?" The strategist swallowed. "What if it's here to send a message?" The room went silent. Back on the border station, Corin watched the human battleship cross the official boundary line into Imperial space. Alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed. "Unauthorized vessel has entered Imperial territory." The announcement echoed through the station, but the human ship did not react. It didn't change speed, didn't activate weapons, didn't power down. It just kept moving, steady, confident, almost relaxed. Corin felt a chill run down his spine. "This ain't a scouting mission," he whispered. Commander Violin stared at the massive ship. "No," he said slowly, "it's not." Far away, the giant human battleship continued its silent journey deeper into the galaxy. Alone, one ship, and somehow, that was more terrifying than a fleet, because fleets can be scary. Fleets can hesitate, but this felt different. This felt planned, and somewhere in the Empire highest command center, for the first time in generations, they began to panic. The human battleship did not slow down. It crossed the Imperial border like it owned the place. No stealth, no fear, no backup. Just one massive ship, moving straight toward the heart of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. And that's when things started getting real. The capital reacts inside the Imperial capital. The high war chamber was packed. Admirals, generals, intelligence chiefs, even members of the Imperial Council. The hologram of the human ship rotated slowly in the center of the room. Dark metal hull, orange energy lines glowing like fire under the surface. Layered armor, hidden weapon ports. No visible weakness. Admiral Dresk stared at it with tight lips. Status update. A tactical officer stepped forward. The human vessel maintains constant speed. No escort ships detected. No cloaked vessels found within 5 light years. A council member scoffed. "So it's just one ship. Why are we acting like this is the end of the galaxy?" The room stayed quiet, because everyone saw the numbers. Energy output, increasing gradually. Shield matrix, adapting in real time. Weapons, unknown class. One engineer spoke carefully. "Sir, its reactor is not fluctuating." "What does that mean?" the Admiral asked. It means the engineer swallowed. This isn't full power. Silence. Someone muttered, "You gotta be kidding me." Old reports resurface. An intelligence officer rushed into the room holding data pads. "Sir, we found something." The admiral glared. "This better be good." The officer activated the display. 3 months ago, an Imperial scout fleet disappeared near human territory. No distress call, no debris. Gone. 2 months ago, a border mining colony reported a black armored vessel before communications cut off. 1 month ago, a fortress station self-destructed after internal systems were hacked from the outside. Every single report described one ship, dark hull, orange glowing lines, no fleet. The war chamber felt colder. The admiral's voice dropped. "You're saying this ship has been testing us?" "Yes, sir." A general whispered, "That's some next-level planning." The admiral clenched his fists. No species would dare. But humans weren't like other species. They were patient, quiet, and low-key unpredictable. The Empire tries to act tough to avoid looking weak. The Empire made a public move. 5 Imperial battleships were dispatched, heavy class, fully armed. They jumped ahead of the human ship's path. The message was clear. Turn back, or face consequences. The human battleship finally slowed. Not stopped, just slowed, almost like it was amused. Inside the lead Imperial ship, Captain Voren watched the human vessel on screen. "That thing looks nasty," one officer whispered. "Relax," Captain Voren said. "We outgun it." But deep down, he wasn't so sure. A transmission was sent. "You have entered Imperial space illegally. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted." Seconds passed. Then the human ship replied. One calm message. "You should reconsider." That's it. No threat, no emotion. Just cold confidence. The bridge crew shifted nervously. "That's kinda bold," someone muttered. Captain Voren frowned. "Scan for hidden fleet." No hidden fleet detected. Scan again. Still nothing. Just one ship, floating there. Like it didn't care. Something feels off back in the war chamber. Live footage streamed in. Admiral Dresk watched carefully. "Why hasn't it fired?" a council member asked. "Because it doesn't need to," the admiral thought. But he didn't say it out loud. Energy readings updated again. The human ship's shields pulsed once, then stabilized. One Imperial analyst whispered, "It's adjusting to our weapon frequencies." "That's impossible," another officer said. "No one adapts that fast." The analyst shook his head. "It just did." The admiral's jaw tightened. "This ain't normal tech." The human ship moves without warning. The human battleship rotated slightly, not aggressively, not dramatically, just enough to reposition. The Imperial fleet's targeting systems flickered. "Sir, our lock just broke." "What?" "Targeting systems cannot maintain focus." Captain Voren stared at his controls. "That's some crazy jamming." "No, sir," the tech said nervously. "It's not jamming." "Then what is it?" "It's bending sensor light." Silence. The human ship wasn't invisible. It was simply too advanced. Captain Voren's voice lowered. "High command, this vessel is beyond expected capability." Admiral Dresk didn't respond immediately. Because he was starting to understand something uncomfortable. This wasn't an invasion. This wasn't reckless. This was calculated. The human ship wasn't here to destroy. It was here to demonstrate. And honestly, that hit harder. Panic begins to spread. Rumors moved fast across the Empire. Citizens saw military ships mobilizing. They saw restricted news reports. Whispers spread through networks. Humans sent a super weapon. The Empire under attack. Is this war? Markets dipped. Transport routes rerouted. Political leaders argued behind closed doors. Empire prided itself on dominance, on strength, on never being challenged. Now one ship had shaken that image, and it hadn't even fired. One council member finally snapped. "Why don't we just destroy it already?" The admiral looked at him coldly. "Because if we fail," he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. If 5 Imperial battleships lost to one human vessel, the galaxy would know, and the Empire's fear-based control would crumble overnight. That was the real threat, not destruction, embarrassment, loss of power, loss of fear. The bigger fear. Back at the interception point, the 5 Imperial ships maintained formation, weapons charged, shields maxed. The human battleship remained still, almost patient. Captain Voren wiped sweat from his brow. "Why aren't they attacking?" One officer answered quietly. "Maybe they don't see us as a threat." That thought hit hard. Because what if it was true? The human ship sent another short transmission. This time it wasn't a warning. It was a simple data packet. Coordinates. Captain Voran checked them. His face drained of color. High command. They just sent us the exact coordinates of our capital. Silence filled every command room across the Empire. The human ship wasn't guessing. It knew. It had studied them, mapped them, prepared for them, and it wanted them to know that too. A junior officer whispered, "This is chess, not checkers," and the Empire suddenly realized they might already be losing. End of Part 2. Hook. The human battleship powered its engines slightly, not to attack, just enough to show force. Its reactor output spiked. Energy levels doubled for 3 seconds, then returned to normal, like a flex, like a reminder. Captain Voran swallowed hard. "Sir, if that was just a fraction of its power," no one answered. Because everyone was thinking the same thing. If this was only one ship, what happens when more arrive? And deep in the Imperial capital, for the first time in centuries, the Empire wasn't angry, it wasn't confident, it wasn't proud, it was sweating, bad. The 5 Imperial battleships held formation. They surrounded the human vessel in a wide arc, weapons glowing bright blue in the darkness of space. The human battleship floated in the center, calm, still, like it had all the time in the universe. Captain Voran stood on his bridge, staring at the massive dark ship on screen. He didn't like the silence. Silence meant thinking, and thinking meant planning, and planning meant this human ship wasn't here by accident. "Final warning," he ordered. A transmission was sent. "You are ordered to power down and submit to Imperial inspection." The human ship responded instantly. One sentence. "We are not your enemy." The bridge crew exchanged looks. Captain Voran narrowed his eyes. "Then why are you here?" No reply. Just silence. And somehow, that silence felt louder than any threat. High Command makes the call in the Imperial capital. Admiral Dresk watched the standoff live. 5 Imperial ships, 1 human battleship. On paper, this should have been easy. But nothing about this felt easy. A political advisor leaned close. "Admiral, the Council demands action. We cannot appear weak." Dresk knew that already. The Empire ruled through strength, through fear. If one ship could enter their space and leave unharmed, other species would start getting ideas, and that was a nightmare scenario. He exhaled slowly, authorized controlled strike. The order traveled across space in seconds. Captain Voran received it. He hesitated for just a moment. Then he said the words, "Fire." The Empire Strike's first 5 battleships unleashed everything. Plasma cannons, ion beams, missile swarms. The darkness of space exploded in blue and white light. The human battleship vanished behind a storm of fire. On the Imperial bridges, officers leaned forward. "Direct hits confirmed." "Yes, that's what I'm talking about." Captain Voran didn't celebrate yet. He waited. The explosions faded. The light cleared. And there it was. The human ship. Untouched, not damaged, not shaken. Its shields shimmered faintly, glowing orange. Energy readings showed only a 3% fluctuation. 3%. An officer whispered, "No way." Another said quietly, "That's wild." Captain Voran felt cold sweat slide down his neck. "Recharge weapons. Fire." Again. They did. Same result. The human ship didn't even move. It just absorbed the attack. Like it was nothing. Like it wasn't even worth reacting. The human ship responds for several long seconds. Nothing happened. Then the human battleship shifted. Not fast, not aggressive. Just a slow rotation. Its massive front section angled toward the nearest Imperial cruiser. Weapon ports opened. Not glowing. Not flashy. Just mechanical panels sliding back. Simple. Clean. Focused. Captain Voran's voice cracked slightly. "All ships brace for return fire." The human battleship fired once. No loud explosion. No dramatic beam. Just a concentrated pulse of orange light. It hit the nearest Imperial cruiser. The cruiser's shields collapsed instantly. Armor cracked. The ship split clean in half. 2 silent pieces drifting apart. No survivors. Total destruction. In one shot. Complete. The Imperial fleet froze. Someone whispered, "Oh man." Captain Voran stared at the wreckage. That cruiser had been state-of-the-art. Years of construction. Thousands of crew, gone in 2 seconds. Retaliate, he shouted. But the human battleship was already moving. Too fast. It accelerated. Not gradually. Not slowly. Instantly. One moment, it was stationary. The next it vanished from its previous position. Sensors scrambled. Where did it go? Tracking lost. Reacquired. It reappeared behind another Imperial battleship, right in its blind spot. Another single shot. Direct hit. Shields failed immediately. Engines exploded. The ship spun out of control. 2 down. 3 remaining. The Imperial formation broke. Ships scattered. Because this wasn't a battle. This was a lesson. And the lesson was brutal. Panic. On the bridges. Captain Voren gripped his command rail. This can't be happening. Weapons officers were shouting over each other. Sir, it's predicting our movements. Targeting solutions failing. It's inside our reaction time. Another Imperial ship attempted a full-power barrage at close range. The human battleship didn't dodge. It didn't need to. Its shields absorbed the blast. Energy readings barely moved. Then it fired again. Third Imperial battleship destroyed. Just like that. Clean. Efficient. Almost surgical. The remaining 2 ships tried to retreat. The human vessel did not chase aggressively. It repositioned calmly, like a predator walking instead of running, confident it would catch its prey. Captain Voren whispered under his breath, "This ain't a warship. It's a nightmare." Capital realization. In the Imperial war chamber. No one spoke. They watched 3 of their finest ships destroyed in less than 5 minutes. No human fleet, no reinforcements. Just one vessel. Admiral Dresk felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Fear. Real fear. Not for himself, but for the Empire. An analyst broke the silence. "Sir, the human vessel has not targeted escape pods." The Admiral looked up. "What?" "It destroyed ships, but not life pods." Silence again. That changed everything. This wasn't slaughter. It was controlled force. Precise. Intentional. A message. And that message was clear. "We can destroy you, but we are choosing not to." That hit way harder than total annihilation. Final blow. Back in space. The last 2 Imperial ships attempted emergency warp. The human battleship locked onto one. Fire. Engines disabled. But not destroyed. Just disabled. The second ship managed to jump away. Captain Voren's ship was the final one left operational. He stared at the human vessel approaching slowly. Weapons ready. Shields untouched. Crew shaken. He knew the truth. If it fired again, they were done. Instead, the human ship sent a transmission. Captain Voren opened it. One sentence appeared on his screen. "This demonstration is complete." Demonstration. That word echoed in his mind. Demonstration. They weren't attacked. They weren't invaded. They were shown. Shown their weakness. Shown the gap. Shown the future. Captain Voren whispered, "We just got schooled." The human battleship powered down its visible weapons. It did not advance. It did not finish them. It simply turned slightly, and resumed its steady path toward the Imperial capital, leaving behind wreckage, leaving behind silence, leaving behind a broken sense of superiority. End of Part 3. Hook in the Imperial capital. Emergency alerts spread across government networks. Citizens saw partial footage leak online. 3 battleships destroyed. By 1 human ship. Markets crashed. Allied species began sending cautious messages. And deep inside the war chamber, Admiral Dresk finally understood something terrifying. This wasn't the full strength of humanity. This was just one ship, and it had already changed the balance of power. As the human battleship continued forward, calm and unstoppable, one question spread across the Empire. Like wildfire. If this is what one human battleship can do, what happens when the fleet arrives? And for the first time in Imperial history, the Empire wasn't in control anymore. The wreckage of 3 Imperial battleships drifted in silence, Escape pods floated between broken metal pieces. Rescue ships rushed in, but nobody was talking trash anymore. Nobody was laughing, because deep down, everyone knew this wasn't random, this was planned, and it was executed perfectly. The human ship keeps moving. The human battleship continued its steady course toward the Imperial capital. No rush, no fear, no change in speed. It did not chase retreating ships. It did not fire again. It simply moved forward, like it had already won. On Captain Voron's damaged ship, the crew sat in stunned silence, weapons offline, morale shattered. He replayed the combat footage again and again. Every movement of the human ship was clean, precise, calculated. No wasted motion, no emotional reactions. It fought like it had already simulated this battle 1,000 times. Voron leaned back slowly. This wasn't a fight, he whispered. It was a test, and they had failed. Back on Earth, far away, across the galaxy, inside a quiet underground command center on Earth, human leaders watched the battle calmly. Massive screens showed the same footage the Empire had seen, but unlike the Empire, the humans were not shocked. They expected this. General Marcus Hale stood with his arms folded. "Damage report," he asked. A technician responded. "HNS retribution shield fluctuation peaked at 5%. Reactor stable. Weapons operating at 12% capacity." 12%. That was it. General Hale nodded. "Good. Maintain passive approach." One young officer looked confused. "Sir, we could finish their fleet." Hale shook his head. "That's not the objective." The officer frowned. "Then what is?" Hale looked at the screen. At the burning wreckage drifting behind the human ship. "We're changing the balance." He paused. "Not starting a war." Why now? For years the Empire had expanded aggressively. Smaller species were forced into contracts, resources taken, borders pushed. Humans watched all of it, quietly, publicly. Earth stayed neutral, signed trade agreements, avoided conflict, played the long game. But behind the scenes, human engineers were busy, very busy. They studied alien tech, improved reactor systems, created new shield matrices, developed predictive combat AI. They didn't rush, they didn't brag, they just built, and built, and built, and built. The HNS Retribution was not rushed into service, it was perfected. 20 years of silent preparation, one ship, designed for a single purpose: make the Empire think twice. The Imperial capital reacts inside the war chamber. Fear had turned into something worse. Doubt. Admiral Dresk stared at the projected path of the human ship. It was now halfway to the capital, unstoppable. 5 battleships had failed, 3 destroyed, 1 disabled, 1 escaped, all against 1 opponent. A council member slammed his fist on the table. "This is unacceptable." The admiral didn't respond immediately. He was thinking, because something didn't add up. If they wanted war, Dresk said slowly, they would have destroyed the survivors. The room went quiet. "They let us live," one general said softly. Yes, that meant something. The human ship had shown mercy, but not weakness. That was dangerous, because mercy meant control, and control meant confidence, and confidence meant power. A political advisor whispered, "They're flexing," another added, "Yeah, and it's working." The message arrived suddenly. All communication systems in the war chamber flickered. Imperial encryption, top-tier security, bypassed instantly. A new transmission appeared. No warning, no breach alarm, just a message. Admiral Dresk stared at it. It was from the human battleship. The message was short, clear, direct. "We did not come for conquest. We came for correction." Silence filled the chamber. The second part appeared. "Withdraw from occupied territory. Release bound systems. End expansion beyond agreed borders." The room exploded with shouting. "They're giving us orders. This is insane. They destroyed our fleet." Admiral Dresk raised his hand. Silence returned. He read the final line. "This is the only warning." That hit hard. Because it wasn't a threat. It was a statement, and everyone knew. The human ship had proven it could back it up. The bigger fear. Back on Earth, General Hale watched the message confirmation. Transmission delivered. He nodded once. "Good." The young officer spoke again. "Sir, what if they refuse?" Hale looked calm. "Then Phase 2 begins." The officer swallowed. "What's Phase 2? Hale gave a small, serious smile. "You don't want to know." The truth was simple. The Retribution was not alone. It was just the first. Behind it, hidden beyond detection range, 2 more ships waited in deep space, not attacking, not visible, but ready. Human strategy was never about loud moves. It was about preparation. If the Empire chose pride, They would regret it. Bad. Cracks in the Empire. Across the galaxy, other species were watching. Trade networks picked up leaked battle footage. 3 Imperial battleships destroyed by 1 human vessel. For the first time in generations, the Empire looked mortal. Allied systems began sending quiet messages to Earth. Neutral species stopped sending tribute payments. Rebel groups gained hope. Inside the Empire, military officers started asking hard questions. Why were we not prepared? How long have humans had this power? Are we already behind? Fear spreads fast, but doubt spreads faster. And doubt is deadly for an empire built on dominance. The human ship nears the capital. The Imperial capital system came into view. Massive defense platforms, orbital cannons, shield grids around the central planet, thousands of ships guarding it. The human battleship slowed again, not because it had to, but because it wanted to. It stopped just outside firing range, not attacking, just waiting. That made it worse, because now, the Empire had to decide: attack again, and risk total humiliation, or comply. Admiral Dresk stood alone for a moment, looking at the tactical display. 1 human ship, surrounded by an entire defensive network, and somehow, he didn't feel confident. He whispered to himself, how did we miss this? How did they grow this strong? How did we not see it coming? The answer was simple: because humans didn't show their strength, they hid it, and now, they revealed just enough. End of Part 4, Hook in the War Chamber. A final internal vote was called: pride or survival. The human ship remained still outside the capital, not firing, not retreating, just watching, like it already knew the outcome. Across the Empire, citizens waited. Across the galaxy, other species watched. And inside the war chamber, the most powerful empire in known space was about to decide its future. Because this wasn't about 1 ship anymore. It was about control, and for the first time in centuries, control was slipping, slowly, and there was nothing loud or dramatic about it, just 1 human battleship, waiting. The human battleship waited outside the Imperial capital. It did not move. It did not charge weapons. It did not send another message. It just stayed there, silent, massive, watching. And somehow, that silence felt heavier than any attack. Inside the war chamber, the Imperial war chamber was no longer loud. No shouting, no arguing, just quiet tension. Admiral Dresk stood at the center table, staring at the tactical map. Thousands of Imperial defense ships surrounded the capital planet, orbital cannons locked on target, planetary shields fully active. On paper, the Empire still had the advantage, but paper didn't mean much anymore. They had already seen what 1 human ship could do. A senior council member spoke slowly. If we attack together, full power, we can overwhelm it. A general shook his head. And if we fail, no one answered. Because everyone knew, if the capital defense fleet lost, the Empire would collapse overnight. Rebellions would rise, allies would leave, enemies would attack, fear would disappear, and without fear, the Empire was just another government. The Pride faction. Not everyone wanted to back down. 1 high general slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. We are the Galactic Empire. We don't take orders from humans. A few officers nodded. He's right. If we surrender now, we look weak. The general continued. They destroyed 3 ships. So what? We still outnumber them. Admiral Dresk looked at him carefully. You saw the combat data. Yes. And you still believe numbers matter. The general hesitated, because deep down, he wasn't sure anymore. Outside the capital, the HNS Retribution floated in darkness. Its orange energy lines pulsed slowly. On the bridge, Captain Elena Reyes stood calmly. Her crew was focused. No panic, no stress. They had expected resistance. They had expected a bigger fight. But now, the Empire was hesitating. Reyes folded her hands behind her back. Status: Imperial defense grid fully active. Multiple ships targeting us. Energy spikes detected across their fleet. Reyes nodded. They're debating. A young officer looked confused. How can you tell, Captain? Reyes gave a small smile. They're powering weapons, then lowering them. Target locks flickering. That's fear. She turned back to the main screen. Stay at 15% power. Yes, Captain. 15%. And they still looked unstoppable. The secret pressure inside the Empire. Cracks were forming. Military commanders were sending private messages to each other. Some supported attacking, some supported negotiation, some quietly contacted border governor, preparing evacuation plans. Even within the capital fleet, whispers spread. Did you see what it did to the third cruiser? Yeah, that was brutal. They didn't even try hard. One pilot muttered, "Man, if that's just one ship, we're cooked." Morale was dropping fast, and when morale drops, discipline follows. The final vote, back in the war chamber. Admiral Dresk made his decision. He turned to the council. "We will not fire first." The Pride General exploded. "So we just sit here like cowards?" Dresk's voice became sharp. "We fire. We risk everything." He stepped closer to the display of the human ship. They came alone. They destroyed only what they needed to. They spared escape pods. They sent terms instead of threats. He looked around the room. "This is not conquest. It is leverage." The Pride General crossed his arms. "So what? We obey." Dresk's eyes hardened. "We survive." The room went quiet. A formal vote was called. Results appeared on the table display. Majority in favor of conditional compliance. Not surrender, not peace. Compliance, temporary, strategic, but still, a step back. For the first time in centuries, the Empire was backing down. One last foolish move. But pride is dangerous, very dangerous. Unknown to Admiral Dresk, the Pride General had already sent a secret order. A small elite strike group, 5 stealth frigates, moved into hidden attack position. Their mission, overload the human ship's shields with concentrated fire. End this embarrassment, prove Imperial strength. The frigates locked on, charged weapons. On the human bridge, alarms flickered. "Captain, stealth signatures detected." 5 vessels, energy spike incoming. Captain Reyes didn't look surprised. Countermeasures, ready. The stealth frigates fired. 5 concentrated beams slammed into the Retribution. For a moment, the shields flared bright. Energy spiked to 25%, then stabilized. Reyes tilted her head slightly. "Predictable. Target engines only," she ordered calmly. 5 precise pulses fired from the Retribution, not at the frigate's reactors, not at command decks, just engines. One by one, the stealth ships went dark, drifting, disabled, alive, but helpless. On the war chamber display, the footage appeared instantly. Admiral Dresk closed his eyes. He knew exactly who had ordered that strike. The Pride General's face turned pale. "You acted without authorization," Dresk said quietly. The general didn't answer, because he had just proven something very dangerous. Even secret attacks failed. Even surprise attacks failed. The human ship was always one step ahead. The realization across the chamber. The mood shifted. This wasn't about pride anymore. It wasn't about strength. It was about reality. The Empire was no longer the strongest force in the galaxy. That title had quietly shifted. Without war, without invasion, without mass destruction, just one ship, a council member whispered. "They outplayed us," and no one argued. The transmission. Admiral Dresk stood straight. Open channel to the human vessel. Connection established instantly. Captain Ray appeared on screen. Calm, composed, no anger, no smug smile. Just professional. Admiral Dresk spoke carefully. "The Galactic Empire will begin withdrawal from disputed territory. We will release controlled systems within 30 cycles. We will halt expansion." The chamber felt heavy as he said it. Captain Reyes nodded slightly. Acknowledged. No celebration, no mocking, just acknowledgement. Dresk added quietly, "This is not surrender." Reyes responded evenly. "We did not ask for surrender." That line hit hard. Because it was true. The humans hadn't demanded control. They demanded correction. And they got it. End of Part 5. Hook. The human battleship slowly turned away from the capital. No victory parade. No dramatic exit. Just steady movement back toward open space. Behind it, an empire shaken to its core. Across the galaxy, other species began to shift alliances. Rebel movements gained hope. Power balances changed overnight. But inside Earth's command center, General Hale watched one final report. Empire compliance confirmed. He nodded once. "Good," the young officer asked. "So that's it." Hale looked at the screen showing the lone battleship returning home. For now, he paused, because this was never about destroying them, it was about reminding them. And as the retribution disappeared into deep space, one quiet truth echoed across the galaxy. Humans had arrived, and they weren't playing around. The HNS Retribution did not rush home. It moved through deep space at a steady pace. No celebration, no victory broadcast, no loud announcement, just quiet engines glowing orange against the dark. Behind it, the Galactic Empire was changing, and everybody knew it. The Empire pulls back within days. Imperial fleets began withdrawing from disputed systems. Occupation forces packed up. Military governors received direct orders from the capital: stand down, release control, return to core territories. Some commanders argued, some delayed, but they all saw the footage. 3 battleships destroyed, 5 stealth frigates disabled, the capital defense grid powerless to stop one ship. Nobody wanted to be the next example. One Imperial officer muttered while watching human ships escort civilians home, "Man, we really got checked." And he wasn't wrong. For centuries the Empire expanded without serious resistance. Now they had hit a wall, and that wall was human. The freed systems across the galaxy, enslaved and controlled worlds, received news that felt unreal. Imperial ships leaving orbit, administrative locks removed, trade restrictions lifted. On one desert world, citizens gathered in the streets as the last Imperial cruiser jumped away. They didn't cheer loudly at first, they just stared at the sky, because they weren't sure it was real. A small human diplomatic vessel entered orbit. Hours later, not a warship, not threatening, just simple. It sent one message: you are free to choose your own future. No demand for alliance, no forced contracts, just choice. That surprised many species. One alien governor whispered, "They could have taken everything." Another replied softly, "But they didn't." That mattered a lot. Back at the Imperial capital, the mood was heavy. Admiral Dresk stood alone on a balcony overlooking the city lights. He had served the Empire his entire life. He believed in its strength, its order, its dominance. Now he understood something painful. Strength without restraint becomes arrogance. Arrogance invites correction. The humans didn't invade. They didn't conquer. They corrected. That stung more than defeat, because it exposed weakness. The Pride General, who had launched the secret attack, was quietly removed from command, not executed, not publicly shamed, just gone. The Empire could not afford reckless pride anymore. Dresk spoke quietly to himself. We ruled through fear. He looked at the holographic projection of the human battleship one last time. They rule through control, and control is stronger than fear. On Earth, there were no massive parades, no loud victory speeches, no fireworks. General Marcus Hale stood in the same underground command center as before. Reports filled the screens. Imperial withdrawal confirmed. Freed systems stabilizing. No retaliation detected. The young officer who had asked about Phase 2 approached again. "So, we won." Hale shook his head slightly. This wasn't about winning. Then what was it about? Hale looked at the rotating image of the Retribution cruising through deep space. Balance. He paused. If one power grows too strong, someone has to remind them. The officer nodded slowly. "So we're the galaxy's referee now?" Hale gave a small smirk. "Let's just say, we're keeping the game fair. Low-key, calm, but deadly serious if needed." What the Empire did not know, what the rest of the galaxy did not know, was this: the Retribution was not humanity's strongest ship. It wasn't even top tier anymore. It was simply the first ready. In hidden shipyards beyond the solar system, larger vessels were under construction, faster reactors, stronger shields, more advanced AI systems. Human engineers worked quietly, not preparing for conquest, preparing for insurance, because humans understood something very clearly: peace only works if backed by power, and humanity had plenty of power. They just didn't show all of it. Not yet. Across galactic networks, one phrase began spreading: do not underestimate humans. Trade requests from smaller systems increased. Diplomatic invitations flooded Earth's communication hubs. Species that once avoided humans now wanted alliances. Why? Because humans had done something rare. They showed strength, then showed restraint. That combination is scary. One alien ambassador said during a private meeting, "They could have destroyed the Empire." The human representative responded simply, "That wasn't necessary." That calm confidence made even powerful leaders think twice, because when someone doesn't need to prove their power, that means it's real. Admiral Dresk addressed the Imperial Council one final time before retiring from active command. "The humans did not come as conquerors," he said. "They came as a warning." He looked around the chamber. "We will rebuild. But we will rebuild smarter. Expansion policies were revised, military aggression reduced, border negotiations reopened. For the first time in generations, the Empire began choosing diplomacy over force, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. And deep down, they respected the move, even if they hated admitting it. As the retribution neared human territory, it sent one final galaxy-wide transmission, not encrypted, not aggressive, clear and open. This is humanity. We seek peace. We will defend balance. That is all. No threats, no chest beating, just facts. Across thousands of systems, beings listened and understood. If humans send one ship, it's already serious. If they send more, that's a bad day. Deep in empty space, far from trade routes and borders, a massive construction platform floated in silence. Metal frameworks stretched for kilometers. Energy cores pulsed inside unfinished hulls. 3 new human battleships were being assembled, bigger than the Retribution, stronger, smarter. An engineer looked at the progress report and nodded. Just in case, he said quietly, because humans had learned from history. Empires rise, empires fall, power shifts, but preparation keeps you alive. And humanity was very, very prepared. The galaxy expected fleets, armadas, mass invasion. Instead, one human battleship arrived, and that was enough. It didn't conquer, it didn't enslave, it corrected, and in doing so, it changed everything. Because sometimes, you don't need an army. Sometimes, you just need one ship, and the will to use it.